The last days of the Wendy Williams Show. For 12 years, she was one of the daytime's most daring and popular personalities. Then she was gone, replaced by a slew of guest hosts in the wake of tabloid claims. Here's a glimpse behind the scenes at what really happened with TV's Queen of the Purple Throne. Two television executives arrived at Wendy Williams' residence in downtown Manhattan on the morning of September 30, 2021. Debmar Mercury co-presidents Mort Marcus and Ira Bernstein were trying to alleviate the anxieties of the Wendy Williams Show's 100-person team, who they knew were reading about Williams' health difficulties in the news. Already, her promotional tour for the 13th season had been cancelled, and its official start date of September 20th had been moved back. The plan was for Williams to be piped into the show's studio in New York City's Chelsea district through Zoom, because the staff had questions, explains her former manager, Bernie Young, whose job had evolved into coordinating Williams' testing and doctor visits. So the thought was, hey, they haven't seen you or spoken to you, so let's do this for the staff and let everyone know where things are. When Young arrived at her apartment around 8 a.m., the 58-year-old presenter, whose slogan "How you doin'" became a rallying cry for daytime gossip hounds, appeared to be in excellent spirits. They'd practiced what she'd say a few times, and Young, who'd previously worked with Rosie O'Donnell and Martha Stewart, felt confident in what was about to happen. By 10 a.m., about 50 personnel, many of whom had been with the Wendy Williams Show for more than a decade, were summoned to the studio, with several more checking in from home. What followed did not go as planned. Williams, who had riffed live on TV for 12 years and on the radio before that, did not appear herself, much less capable of communicating a clear message, according to many persons present, as her speech swiftly became jumbled and unconnected. She goes on and begins talking about "I'm really fine, it's going to be fine," and it's like, what are you saying? One perplexed insider recalls, adding that she was beginning to not be coherent. Seeing that their strategy was backfiring, the executives thanked everyone for their time and quickly concluded the Zoom. That lasted 2.5–3 minutes, and it was not pretty, says Lonnie Burstein, Executive VP Programming at Debmar Mercury, who was seated in the studio with the show's crew. They were a little scared. She was saying things like, "Oh, I can't wait, I'll be back with you really soon," but anyone watching could tell she wasn't going to be back anytime soon. Instead, for the rest of the year, a rotating cast of guest hosts stepped in. With Williams effectively absent, Debmar Mercury determined in February that the 13th season of the Wendy Williams Show would be its final. Williams first raised health concerns in 2017 when she fainted live on air during the Wendy Williams Show's Halloween edition. She'd recovered consciousness after an emergency commercial break and informed her adoring audience of Wendy watchers that she'd overheated in her Statue of Liberty costume. Yet, this was not an isolated instance. In fact, her problems seemed to worsen from there. During the next 4 years, the woman who rose to prominence by dishing the unvarnished truth about others became her own hot topic. Nothing appeared off limits, which only served to endear her to her audience. Williams spoke freely and shamelessly about her ongoing battles with substance misuse from her famous purple chair, announcing via tears in 2019 that she'd been staying in a sober living facility. Prior to that, the host had spent time in a high-end rehab in Florida, which was paid for by Debmar Mercury, according to Marcus and Bernstein. Williams also recounted the end of her 20-year marriage to Kevin Hunter and the baby he was having with his mistress on the show, and later revisited both in her Lifetime documentary, Wendy Williams, What a Scandal. Insiders believe Williams was disintegrating behind the scenes. Everyone on that staff and crew saw everything, one program source said. According to two more, throughout that 4-year span, producers sent pre-show text messages to corporate executives questioning Williams' sobriety at least 25 times. Those at the top would then have to make an extremely quick decision on whether to go live at 10 a.m. or not. This, according to those individuals, was always compounded by Williams's insistence that she was fine. In other cases, the episode in question was the second recording of the day, which meant it wouldn't run until later in the week, allowing executives time to revisit the hour to see if Williams appeared inebriated. With the exception of one occasion, it was determined that she appeared fine enough, and the episodes aired as planned. According to one of those sources, employees would discover bottles up in the ceiling tiles and other bizarre places in the office. Williams declined to speak for this piece, but spokesperson Sean Zanotti said in an email, "It has been no secret that Wendy has fought with addiction throughout the years, but at this moment Wendy is on the road to recovery and healing herself from her chronic diseases and her prior complaints." When asked about occurrences concerning her physical and mental health, Zanotti declined to comment, adding, "What we do know is that Wendy has a history of chronic illness, which she has openly discussed." Williams was in and out of hospitals and physicians' offices by the summer of 2021, according to various people who were not comfortable discussing her condition publicly. Several people originally blamed substance misuse, but according to those same sources, it became evident that there were other health issues at play. Soon, Williams, who has been open about her battles with Graves' disease and lymphedema, was being shuffled from one expert to the next, as doctors tried to figure out what was causing symptoms such as as nonlinear speech, brain fog, memory loss, and even hallucinations. We still don't know what the problem is, Burstein explains.